Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. With a great surprise, I have a comeback, a guest that I've had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing a couple of years back, and we had a terrific journey then. And I have to say that I'm excited for to have him back because his world is something that is needed, period and out, and more than ever. And I think when we interviewed, it was just in the midst of COVID, and we were still, there's a lot of things going on then, and a lot of aftermath happened, and we've had so many other events in this world. And what is beautiful about his approach is that he's basically East meets West kind of concept and holistic approach to psychotherapy. So without any further ado with me, I have Alex Boianghu, and Alex, welcome back to the network.
Amazing. I had such a great time last time. I cannot wait for this time. Really. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, likewise. And you know what? Again, we had a terrific discussion about, some of the factors and some of the things that affect how people interact and live and how the psychotherapy concept works and how all this stuff. I do want to bring our new audiences, because obviously it's been a minute, to your background and how you make it work in the way you do it. Because, and by the way, the last time we had a terrific, discussion because you were in Greece and we had a little bit of discussion of that. So you travel back and forth, and you really are doing a terrific work out there to help people. So let's talk about Alex and the background just for our new audiences.
Oh gosh, I mean, the summary of that is going to be on my website. It gives a really good depth of my life and my history. But I would just say is, I've been someone who's just been really curious about the human condition. Who are we? Why are we here? What is the cause of suffering, and what are the ways to reduce suffering and live a life that is joyous, fulfilling? And I've spent my life, exploring that. And I'm 50, I'm going to be about 56 right now. And I feel like I've gotten to a place where after seeing thousands of people and doing this work for over 32 years, I have a good sense of that everybody suffers from the same issues, from the same conditions. And actually, it's not that complex, and healing is possible for everybody. You see, that's the beauty. The beauty of seeing that many people is it's like, if you worked on a 4-stroke engine on 1,000 of them, you know what it looks like, you know what it works like. You can hear a little ping and you go, I know what that is. And you know exactly what to do for it, right? At this point, it's like seeing so many people, you realize when somebody says one thing or explains something, it's like, I know what's going on, right? And what I love about that is the smile that they get when they realize like, oh, change is possible. And so knowing what's going on for them gives them a sense of ease that healing and change is possible. And that's my biggest joy is to see that. And it could happen in the first session where there's an aha and a person realizes like, wait a second, how I've been thinking and seeing and feeling and this and that and then that can shift. So who am I? I mean, I'm that guy that loves doing this. That's essentially who am I? You know what I mean? The particulars of like, I like the woods, I like nature, I like going hiking, I like traveling. Cool, those are all things. But my passion is to watch you. And last time this happened between you and I, was to watch you have a profound change right in front of me. And that gave me the joy, and that was worth the whole podcast.
Well, Alex, I have to say, just re-listening to you right now, that's happening again. Because just the idea of that change can happen and we can be better, listening to it alone can make a difference in how we see ourselves instantly. I mean, you do feel it, you do hear it. Anyone watching right now and listening, I guarantee you, just by hearing that, you're like, oh, there's like, there's that, moment where like, this is cool. I can get better. And by the way, everybody, and I love what you said, the human condition. I mean, it sounds like a disease, but really, it's reality. We are, conditioned to a lot of things, and we have,
patterns.
Human factor.
Patterns.
It's amazing how everywhere around the world, and you said it best, is that we all have a similar concept, and it's repeating itself. And you're an expert. I mean, 30 plus years doing this. Listen, I have 30 years in my area of expertise, and I consider myself, one of the better ones
Yeah,
in it,
yeah,
because you've seen a lot of scenarios. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're a surgeon in your expertise, right?
yeah, yeah.
And frankly, uh, there is nothing more fascinating than the human person or the human
Yeah,
character or the body. And I'm not talking about just anatomy. I'm talking about the human period. I mean,
yeah.
humankind in a way. We have the good. We have, we are capable of so much greater than what we actually think we have and
Mhm.
can. Although there is some factors that affect how we operate in this world, and I think that's really what makes the dynamics based on a lot of things: your environment, your upbringing, your society, your person in general, your parents. I mean, every single factor affects you. So, Alex, I want to go back to this particular piece. Now, obviously, you're a psychotherapist. You talk to people, you kind of dig in and bring in all the stuff that's within to the surface to be able to adjust and help them and guide them to be better. And that is like, an amazing piece. First of all, I am always amazed at anyone who's doing psychotherapy or psychiatry in general, because how do you do it? Because you listen to a lot of people's stuff. I mean, I don't want to, put a C word there, but really, it's a lot of things that people are
Mhm.
spilling, out, and you have to digest all that and absorb it.
Mhm.
And it could be very depressing, I'm sure. But that is always a question I like to ask. I mean,
Mhm.
understanding how to manifest through this and make it where you are still positive. That is a mind thing that I cannot get a handle. Please tell us about that, because I think that's a big deal for people to understand that what you go through is not easy, uh, to get into the person and then eventually give them the resource and the help that they need.
You see, the first part of therapy when a person comes in is they want to tell their story. Everybody wants some room to be able to tell their story with a loving space. And when they're telling their story, I don't think of it or feel that it's just dumping on me, right? Because they're just needing a space. So I can hold space, right? And so my character, right, and this has taken me time, and I don't think all psychotherapists are this way. They may develop eventually. My character at this point is the following: you're the one responsible for your change, not me. And this is something I set out early on. The Buddha was very clear. The Buddha said, "Look, I sat under the Bodhi tree, and I realized the profound nature of the truth. I can't get you there, but I can provide you the methods that you can get yourself there. Here's how I build a boat. I can't build your boat, but you can build your boat. I can't help you row, but you can row." You see? And so when I'm sitting with someone, I want to inspire them to row their own boat, build their own boat, right? So I don't take that on. And if they don't do it, that's on them. Then they suffer. Then they feel bad, they feel low, they have anxiety, they have depression. But now, if they keep staying with me and they just keep telling their story and don't engage in transformation, then they're not ready. That means they need to go. And usually what happens when they go, life comes spanking them a little bit more,
I'm right back.
and they'll come back. You see?
Uh-huh.
So that's how it goes. Now, maybe not back with me necessarily, but it'll be with somebody, right?
Sure,
So that
sure.
means when we know we have to change and we don't change, we're just basically saying to life, "Please spank me some more." That's all.
Well, well, Alex, thank you for first of all, I love how you went to the Buddhism, tradition right there. And that's again what makes you unique, is you have that perspective that
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the West is a little different. The approach could be different. I love what you said about the idea that no matter what you do, and by the way, again, I've had that question asked before, and really, people do get into the mind and they have to work through that. But the way you approach it is, and obviously it took you years to really perfect it, and the idea is not it's not about you, it's about me as your client, as the person in
Correct.
front of you
Correct.
trying to talk to
Correct.
you about my own problems. But the minute you can revert that to me, where I'm responsible, I'm accountable,
Correct.
that's the whole thing. And I think that's the probably everybody's issue, is that we don't. have accountability. We tend to blame everything on everything else
Well,
as ourselves.
this is it right here. And now you're hitting a point of that I was going to mention this before. So when you said to me, where does this process begin of healing, right? So, and I said, everybody has the potential of working through their stuff. Everybody, right? But in order to do that, one has to be so willing, so curious, and to do the following thing: stop blaming everyone and everything and life. Stop doing that, right? Because all that wasted energy, because let's just take a look at it. Let's go about in our own lives and say, in all the times we've complained, and I'm not a complainer, but let's say in all the times we've complained, has that actually changed anything?
Nope. Guarantee it.
So you sit with your friends, and you call another friend, you just keep going, right? At the end of the day, you spoke to five friends about the same damn topic, right? And then you go to sleep at night and you go, did anything change? You're still miserable. Stop. When we stop blaming everybody, then the finger is going to go backwards, and we have to then take a look at the image in the mirror and to say, what am I bringing to this?
Alex, when we point this, right, they said that all the other fingers are pointing back at us, right? Well, it's funny, but you're right. I mean, again, watching and listening right now, folks. I mean, this is just an exercise. Think about it. I mean, what Alex just stated is the obvious, right? We do this. We tend to try to justify everything by talking about it and figuring reasons why everything is working against us, but we never see what's our role in that whole aspect of things. What are we doing to manifest those bad things, behaviors, whatever, or on the contrary, to change for better?
I'll give you. I'm going to give you. Let me give you an example. So everybody will get a laugh of this. Here's one of the most common displacement methods that people use. Right? It goes like this: "Oh, he or she made me feel this way." Bullshit.
No one can make you feel anything. You feel it yourself.
You're feeling that as a reaction and a response to that person. So the analogy that I like to give is if I take 10 people into a room and expose them to a particular circumstance, I'm going to get 10 different interpretations of that. Or let's say 3 interpretations. Let's say 3 people agree, but I'm going to get a variety of different interpretations. Therefore, the belief system that we carry is subjective. It is not an objective one in the world. And once we realize, wait a second, let me explore how I'm interpreting this situation, and then I can work on that, right? So living in New York and growing up in New York and being around driving in New York is one of the craziest things that you can experience, right?
But I know.
Once you learn to drive in New York, you can drive anywhere. But the point of this is this: when I was younger and a hothead and driving in New York, and people would cut me off and all those things, I'd want to fight everybody, right? Because it was personal. You're doing that to me. Why are you trying to cut? So the interpretation was always, right, you're doing this to me. Well, I grew up with that because my dad was doing that all the time. So I drove with my dad, and he was doing that all the time. And so there was a lot of stuff that I was continuing that way. I'm driving in New York not too long ago. Some guy comes passing by me, rolls down the window, and he's screaming at me. He's going nuts, cursing at me. I roll down my window, and I'm just looking at him. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, you're suffering. For you to get to that point because of something on the road, you're suffering. Something's bothering you. And then you're going to go home to your wife and children, and they're going to have to live this experience with you. And so I just had compassion for him. I didn't want to pull him out of the car. And so look at what happened. Perspective changed. Right.
Alex, it's amazing what you said, that it's the capability of pivoting and understanding, a little bit more about things. I mean, because you were able to see that. You're right. I mean, someone is going I mean, listen, we all have a moment where we kind of like, burst, right?
Yeah,
And it's true fact. I mean, when we get to that point, there's enough that's built up momentum in your life that you
correct.
sometimes you just kind of like, that's it. You stop. And it takes a level, depends on where you stand in your own person's, abilities. Some people have a way to last longer. I mean, their reaction can be, it takes a lot for them to
That's
to
it.
react. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And if you said to me, what's really important to do? It's really important to go from reactivity to conscious acting in life. If you want to talk about some of the most important healing that's done, right? Because we suffer because we're being automatic and reactive. That means the patterns that we have are just simply operating and reacting to circumstances, right? Well, if we develop a longer fuse, a longer moment of reflection, we may see that we have an initial reaction inside, but we can say, wrong time, wrong space, wrong way, wrong view, and say, wait a second. I understand that the old reaction is coming up because it's going to come up. We're not saying it's going to be absent. Did I have a moment in me that wants to say, I'm going to pull my car over and grab him? Absolutely. The old thing arose, right? But the old thing is I'm in charge of the old thing, not the old thing is in charge of me.
Bro.
And this is what's really important, right? When we start to get that gap moment of space between the old thing and the way I want to be and who I am, then we have the power to not give in to the old ways. But we have to have enough time to understand that the old ways create suffering. And we need a gap, we need distance. Pause, breathe, take a breath, breathe for 1 minute, just 30 seconds. You're at work and one of your coworkers says something and you're looking at them and just inside of you go, calm down, calm, settle, and then go.
Alex, I listen. Like it's the analogy I would give is like most of the people are on a one, linear D, as opposed
Yes,
to like a 3D, 4D version. You got to see it from every angle
that's
before.
it.
And there is a lot of discussion about all you have to do is use keyword you stated, pause, right? If you take a minute or less to just like absorb it, think about the outcome and what would be the different things that can happen if you stated quick, a certain thing, everything can go. I mean, most of the escalations can be de-escalated without even anything if you just pause for a minute and like this is
Correct.
not worth it. If you get to think about things, just and by the way, these things happen at a fast pace. I mean, this is not like taking it's a split second and you get all these visuals and you can control. And by the way, this is an exercise that we in martial arts, I mean, is pretty big. We don't tend to react the same way as individuals who may not be
Mm-hmm.
experts in it because we know what the outcomes are going to be. We know that there's the best fight is the one that never happened. We know that somebody's going to get hurt, including you, or worst case, even if not physically, by law, right? So what's the point? So there's you have to like adjust to that. And I love what you said. You're in control at the end of the day. You're right. We all have that first gut feelings like I want to just go and snap the dude from the car. But at the end of the day, like, there must be some a bad day. And I had a discussion and someone had said, you can just like, are you okay, man?
Yeah,
you
and
know,
inside of me, I had a lot of compassion for him because I'm like, are you okay? Because in order to do that, you got to be not well.
well,
So,
you're a psychotherapist. You can analyze people faster than the average person.
but to be honest with you, you don't need to be a psychotherapist. You just have to realize that if we observe other people, we start to realize that the majority of their actions and words are coming from their own suffering, from their own confusion. People are not clear about themselves. Well, if they're not clear about themselves and they interact with me, why would I take that personally? I perceive that most human beings, unless they're at a particular level of development, are so like if you said to me from reactivity to conscious action, right? I have a lot of compassion for the people where it's in that reactivity phase, you know, because then once you get to conscious action, you're not gonna do that. So I have a lot of compassion. It's like, I'm not going to be now. Look, obviously, people are going to thinking, well, what happens if they punch you? What happens if they do so? I get that. I may be upset, right? But I'm not going to hold on to it. It's not going to create. my world is not going to collapse, right? And also, I can still hold them in the light and say, I hope they can heal. I hope they can deal with whatever's going on with them. And, the old adage is this, and I know it's going to be so corny what I'm going to say right now, but it's so true. Love really heals everything. It really does. I've understood this only now. Like being older, there's something to being older and seeing that it's love. And I'm not talking about romantic love. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a deep, deep kind of love that heals everything. And it begins with love for yourself. When you have love for yourself, you're going to be 1,000 times less reactive to another human being. If you want to correlate the relationship between reactivity and lack of love, that's the best correlation you can have.
Alex, wisdom, wisdom, man.
When I'm not, and I don't mean Alex, when one is not well with oneself, of course you're going to be reactive because you're coming from a deprivation space internally. Well, if I'm from a deprivation state, and I don't mean deprivation of food or clothing, I'm talking about spiritual, psychic, connective to another person, deprivation. I'm lonely. I'm not connected. My heart chakra is closed down. And I feel that deprivation. Of course, you're going to be reactive. You're going to go to the grocery store and the person who's giving you the change back, and you walk out being like, I can't believe they looked at me that way. That's going to happen because you didn't connect with them in that moment. Now the problem is that they're the issue. But if I'm in my heart and I'm in my love and I love myself, but I interact with that person, no matter what they do, love is still going to be between us. So the lack of love in me shows up as the issues with others.
So really, essentially, the idea is we are basically our own salvation. we are the ones who are completely at the helm. We can turn everything. I love what you said that, and by the way, I agree with you. I mean, we're only a couple of years apart, and I can tell you, as you age, you start becoming different in your behavior, your way of thinking. You can de-escalate, you can avoid conflict. You are more in tune with yourself, with who you are. You don't care about people's opinions. You don't care about how people perceive you, how they see you, your looks, everything, all the stuff that we were like so excited about at your age. You're like, that was all bull stuff. I mean, it wasn't really, it meant nothing because you are who you are and you can't change who you are. I mean, you can't change your habits, your character, but your physical stuff, I mean, you can do things to enhance it. But if you're in love, as you said, and this is not about being selfish and egoistic and stuff. This is about just loving who you are and for who you like, your person, your character. Now, obviously, if you're a bad character, and you have that, then you're gonna react. But then again, that will go back to the discussion you said. That's something wrong with you through some stuff. Yeah. The best example is the bullies, right? I mean, there are a lot of bullies in the world, and they basically are just reacting as a defense mechanism to where they are and how they, it's their way to just like tell to the world, what, I hate the world because I hate myself in a way. And again, the world hate is too extensive here, but it's really, sometimes the level that I can see.
Aggression, right, is the need to control another person so I don't have to be vulnerable and expose my heart.
Love the definition. It's simple, but it's deep.
I'll say it again. Aggression is the message that I am going to attack you so that you don't enter into the hurt and wounds within me. So it's much easier if I stay on the offensive. And if I keep just pushing you away, right? Then you're not going to get close because I got stuff in my closet that I can't even look at. So I don't want you anywhere near it. So I'm going to stay aggressive. And I'm not talking about aggression like hitting. I'm talking about emotional aggression, right? Forget about the next stage of that, right? Which is the, physical aggression is just, let's say with our partners or people, that's just the next phase of basically, I am completely empty inside.
Alex, it's funny because you talked about this whole definition of aggression and how that it's like a camouflage. I mean, I'm putting all these barriers,
Yes.
to cover like the reality. I'm almost escaping, to face the truth. It's really
Yes.
instead of me like looking in the mirror and say like, what the hell's wrong with me? I'm gonna try to reflect, my anger on myself to the world, and I keep it that way so no one can think I'm vulnerable, I'm weak. And again, I think that in itself in, introduces the idea of weakness, because the fact that I'm not able to face myself, that should be giving me a sign that there's something wrong with me and I should address it. But unfortunately, I think a lot of us may not get to that point unless we hear something, a discussion, see a specialist, someone that can, as you said, bring that back control to us and say, hey, listen, I can give you that vote. I can show you how it's done, but you got to do it yourself. And I think that's really the challenge. But we see that all over the place. We
Yes.
see it. I mean, the example you give about the road rage, I mean, that's a very common one. We see it all the time. But it takes, again, understanding. And for people that are watching or listening right now, Alex, what would be some of the advice you would give them to really just, look in the mirror and or identify that they have the issue? Because I think that's the thing. It starts with identifying that I have something not right with me. When and how can we get someone to really at least understand that I need help or I need to just change?
I think there's a spectrum of, so there's, in psychology, we have something called the Big Five, and it's five scale of really important characteristics. And the first one is called openness, closeness. That's the scale. And it's an amazing scale because when I look at that scale, I go, when a person um, enters my room, if they have not been forced by someone else, let's say, right, by the law or by their partner, they are already on the openness scale of exploring. And they've had enough suffering in their life, enough repetition of the patterns that they say, something's not working. I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to explore it with someone. See, this is what's important. But then you and I also know people who've lived their whole lives never exploring how they contribute to the problems. You know people like that? I know people like that,
Oh, I'm sure I do.
right? And so those people basically, they're so convinced that the problem is in the world and other people. And so they're clean. You know what I mean? So they're miserable inside, but are thoroughly convinced that their misery is caused by everybody else. And the crazy part about these kind of people, they actually get a satisfaction of being miserable. I know this sounds a little bit nuts, but there's this kind of like, the person who's very curmudgeon and complains about everything, right? They love it. That's the way they get attention. That's the way they get people to be around, because then they need to find one or two people who agrees with them on a topic, and then they just sit there and complain, right? So they're not open to the change. So in that scale, we have to see where the person is. And I'm hoping that the people who come to your show, just by coming to your show, they're already demonstrating that they're on the scale of a little bit of the openness. And as long as they have enough on that openness, they're going to be willing to explore. And the next step is, it's hard to explore yourself. It's very difficult. You really want to work with someone who can see things that you can't see. You know, because I know that in my life I've needed people to be able to help me see things that I can't see, and that's been, if it wasn't for my teachers and guides, I wouldn't have the wisdom that I have. So I attributed it to them. You know.
Uh, you, so you said five different things, and the openness was the first one. So what, if you don't mind, can you
Oh
just
God,
share?
I don't
Yeah.
I don't remember all of them off the
Oh,
top of my
okay.
head. Yeah, yeah.
It's okay.
But I
Well,
remember the first one was open because the other one was neuroticism and non-neuroticism, right? So I love that scale too, being neurotic or non-neurotic, right? But anyway, people can find out. It's called the Big Five in psychology.
well, no worries, Alex. Well, but I love what you said, because it's true. A lot of the folks, they want that people around them that will just validate what they say, and that they basically like, oh, you see, I got this. But frankly, and by the way, I think that's where a lot of us have the challenge. When someone challenges us, usually we're like reactive and like, what the hell? My opinion is the best opinion. By the way, I encounter this in leadership all the time. You're in a meeting and you throw in something, you kind of like, well, I disagree, and people look at you like, why you disagree? Well, there's other ways. There's not. And by the way, this is the thing. That's the fun part is I realized a long time ago about one thing. Here's we have the expression, we all know it. There's thousands of ways to skin a cat, as they say. It's not always your way or my way. There's the key is we have to find the right way to do whatever it is that we need to do. So in
Correct.
business, it's very practical to be there. But you have people that are like, who are you to challenge me? What do you know? Listen, I can learn from anyone, any given day.
Mm.
And I love what you said about like you had people to give you that wisdom to help you see things that you can see. We all have those blind spots, and we all think that we know what we know, but there's always, first of all, I do believe in this. There's always someone that knows more. There's always someone that's better. There's always someone that's better looking. There's someone that's healthier, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, don't think that you know it all, that you are at the highest level, because you're never going to be. There's always going to be not only one, plenty of people out there. So it's okay to learn, and you have the best, explanation stated that you had some gurus, some people that you
Mm.
mentors, that you coach, and I think everybody needs some mentorship and some coaching and some guidance from other people at any given day, especially as we're younger. We need that, that little, structure, if you want to call it, guidance. Yeah,
Guidance.
exactly. And then, of course, even when you get to like, we're experts at what we do, but that doesn't mean we can't learn on a daily basis. I learn
Always.
every day, and I don't stop learning. I think that's what makes a difference. Like and again, these shows alone. I mean, I make a joke about it. I'm the first client. I mean, I absorb the information. It keeps me motivated to do more of this, and really keeps me going. I get faced, every day by challenges of life. And every time I get those, guess what I do? I start thinking about all the discussions I had, about all the stuff and advice I give, and I know it works. And if I can give that advice to people, I should give it to myself. And then it helps me reset. And I always like, sometimes you get doubts too, like like, am I doing the right thing? What the hell's going on? And then as soon as you start, revisiting your mind with all the stuff, all the motivation stuff, you go, oh, wait, this is going to work. I can do this. It's a temporary phase. I can get through this.
Mm.
But Alex, you said something very powerful, I think a couple of times. And when you said someone comes to you, they have to be willing to transform and to change. And I think this is the problem. We need people to be aware that they have to be the ones making that transformation. No one else is going to do it. We can give them all the frequency, we can give them all the
Mm-hmm.
vibes.
Mm.
They still got to do the work. So the ones that are open, that's the easy ones, right? I mean,
I'll tell you. So like, I get to see somewhere between 30 to 40 people a week, let's say, right? And I know that from week to week, I know what the person has done from the last session to the next session, how much they actually processed it. And the people who come in who took that one session, because in the 45 minutes to an hour that we work on, it's so deep that if they really just stayed with it and worked on the particulars that we worked on, there's going to be great transformation. Now, some come back next week and they go, look, I took it in. I reflected on it. I kept on reflecting about it. I saw in certain circumstances when I was people interacting, I saw how that came up. I journaled about it. I read a book. So they really, it's like working out. It's not like, you like to work, you go to your martial arts teacher and they go, all right, we're going to do kata number 1. You do kata. And then next week you come back, the coach says, okay, good. How'd you do? I didn't practice kata 1. Can we do kata 2? We got a problem, right? So so I get to see with people. So people sometimes can be really, lazy even when they're on transformation. And that just tells me then what happens is this, there's a weird space between enough suffering for change and then not enough suffering for change. If I pinch you, there's going to be a point where you say, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And then I'm going to punch you now, right? So life is the same way with the human being. It's like life is going to go squeeze. And you're like, okay. Okay. All right. Now I got to go. You know what I mean? So it's the same process here. And so I love working with people who are what I call high motivators. Oh, amazing. It's amazing. I love it. Low motivators, it's challenging and it doesn't usually last so long, you know?
Alex, we got to do the work, right? I mean, there's nothing that's easy in this life. We got to do the actual steps, and to progress, you got to start moving
But
towards.
it's fun. But it's fun too. It's fun. If here's the thing, if everybody thinks it's gonna, no, it's great. So like you get a moment where you get a shift of some sort, and you go and you start laughing. You go, I can't believe I've been thinking that way the whole my whole life, and that's amazing. Like the work that we're talking about, the transformation, it doesn't have to be like torturous. I don't know why everybody thinks that the psychotherapy and the transformation and the healing and then this and that. It no, it's fun. It's like if you're wearing a 50-pound backpack and we go hiking, and I said, I'm gonna help you and teach you how to put that backpack down. You're gonna be like, yeah, yeah, same thing. You're not gonna be like, oh, I gotta put this 50-pound backpack down. You're gonna put it
Well,
down, and
I,
then you're gonna skip along and be like, I can't believe I feel so much lighter.
well, it's amazing, right? Like I love the analogy and the descriptive here because if you visualize what you just said right now, I mean that's heavy. It's a heavy load on your shoulder.
Oh,
You're almost
oh.
like bending down, and then all of a sudden you got vitality. You're moving. You're like
Well,
light on your
that's
feet.
it. That's it. You see, now that's the word. That's the word that everybody wants. Everybody wants to have vitality. And I want to say this: we have a pandemic in the United States, and it's not COVID. We have a pandemic of anxiety and depression that is caused by the loss of vitality due to many factors, but not because they are biological factors of having issues in the nervous system or the brain. I'm going to repeat that again. Anxiety and depression are symptoms of suppressed vitality. Only one person out of 10 actually has a biochemical deficiency in serotonin and dopamine when given an antidepressant. Therefore, an antidepressant is not the solution for a lack of vitality. Doing the spiritual psychological work is the best pill that you can take to regain your vitality.
Well, Alex, it's amazing because you mentioned spirituality and religion has a lot of spirituality, and as one thing we noticed, the more true religious folks, doesn't matter what denominations, they tend to be a lot more calmer, a lot more easier going. They accept things the way they are. They have a different level of or threshold of being more pleasant and more appealing to the world, and they come across a lot nicer than those that may not have a spiritual guidance. Period. And it's amazing. It's very standard across. I mean, we can pick all the main the religions of the world. They all have similarities or pretty much all the same in a way, and they have a
Do you know?
lot of.
Do you know? Do you know why? Do you know? Do you know what the number one core root for that is? All philosophies and all religions, for a long, long time, for thousands of years, basically say the following: stop focusing on your selfish ass self and start focusing on being compassionate and loving in the world and life and contribute something to the benefit of all beings. So when we stop just being me, 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 we're going to be much happier. The Dalai Lama speaks about this all the time. He says, if you want to be happy, stop focusing on just everything about you. He didn't say not about not loving yourself. We're not talking about that. That's not it. We're talking about the selfishness where everything and everyone supports my views, my ideas, what I want, the things that I want, and all of the, pursuit of me. Well, when you look at all religions and philosophies, they cut away at that. So to me, it's a very simple formula. Stop being neurotic and narcissistic. Being narcissistic is the worst character trait. The worst. When we meet people who are just self-absorbed, you know how it feels? Blah, blah, just blah.
it's very easy. You can really pick that up quick. I mean, you're not going to be wanting to be with those folks, for
You're
long.
not gonna want to be with them.
Yeah.
But then people are going to be listening and be like, they're like, I'm not narcissistic. Okay, hold on. That's There's a scale of narcissism, and this scale. And so when you're hanging out with people, next time you're hanging out with people, and you ask oneself and be like, am I narcissistic? Right? Not the box, but let's say a scale, and just sit there and be like, am I talking too much? Am I only talking about me? Am I interrupting and throwing in only my, like, why am I here? What am I contributing to the conversation, to other people, to their opinions? Am I holding space and love for them? And I'm just sitting here waiting to make it all about me.
But Alex, it's amazing. I'm listening to you, and there is a concept that I believe in, and it's part of my belief, and that is that if you don't have something good to say, don't stay quiet. If you're going to contribute positivity, that's it. And I actually I state this in a lot of different talk shows about being a giver.
Mm,
It's a much better feeling than actually being a taker at all times. And that's to me, that's like a way for me to exercise the idea of not being selfish and stuff, and being
yes.
more open to, and it works, man. I mean, I do things for people. I don't ask anything in exchange, and I'm not saying this to brag. I really believe in this.
Yeah, me
I
too.
actually do it without, I don't care if people give me something back. I just, when I want to give, I give because for the sake of God, for the sake of being good, for whatever it is. But I do it and from the heart that I want to be a contributor. You and I, we had the discussion about like the network, right? And how it all works in terms of finances. A lot of, when I started all this was all my money and I put in it, not because I expect things. I want this. I want this mission to educate, enlighten people,
That's right.
and bring something to the value to the world. Because I think there's so much negativity,
That's right.
and I can use it. Again, I'm a client too, and I know I need it. And I know a lot of people out there. I see people suffering every day. I mean, really, you look around, people are
Suffering.
really having a tough time financially.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is expensive now. People are just stressed. You talked about depression. There's so much stuff that's going on
Yeah.
that's impacting. But if you keep a positive attitude about things, like my wife sometimes is like, how do you do it? Like, you just like literally not, you don't show any signs of like, anxiety. I don't have anxiety because I can control it. Doesn't mean that I'm not worried about things. I
Yeah.
am seeing
Same.
exactly what you're seeing. I
Same.
just control things in a different, like to your point earlier, what am I going to do? But there are certain things I can't change. I got to work towards a better way to find another solution.
That's right.
But I can't change things that are not in my control. I can change things that are in my control. And it makes a big difference in how I operate in life.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not easy, folks. By the way, I make it sound like this, like, it takes a lot of work, a lot of
Right.
debate. Sometimes you do get those mental decisions or discussions like, what the hell's wrong with you, man?
Mm,
And you know what? Sometimes, like, what? I go back to the roots, the basics. Am I going to be able to do something about this? No. What can I effectively change? This. Okay, then I'll work there. And that's really what I do. But it's a stranger's, the best thing. And talking about narcissism, you're right. I mean, if it's all about this, you'll be shallow enough that people eventually will just walk away from you. People will
That's
not
it.
want to be with you.
That's it.
And it's very simple. People tend to be very overwhelming when they have those characteristics, and eventually you're just gonna brush them off. That's it. And that's the other thing. I mean, I talk all the time about entourage and your selection of the people around you. And Alex, please, do share with us your vision on this.
Mm.
How important is the selection of your, I guess, group of support or support system?
So in Buddhism, we have a particular saying. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Those three words are the following. The Buddha, taking refuge in the Buddha doesn't mean the person. Buddha is not a person. That means your awakened state. I take refuge in my awakened state. What is the Dharma? The Dharma are the teachings, the way, the methods to recognize my true nature. What is the Sangha? The community. Look at this. Look how intelligent this was. It's amazing. The Buddha didn't say, you're going to do this by yourself in isolation from everything. You're going to realize the fullness of the path within the context of community. Because the context of community does a few things. It's a mirror for all of our stuff. So when you are in a community of people, be it family, larger communities, friends, there's a constant mirroring for you of your own stuff. You can't get away from it. And if you are with people who are honest with you, they're going to give you good feedback on your stuff, right? And then as you're working on your stuff and you're becoming more whole and you come back to your home, you're going to start to look around and the people around you and say, do these people support my wholeness? Or are they going to detract from that? It comes down to some very simple questions in my life. So, this person wants to go do this X, Y, and Z. This person wants to do this X, Y, and Z on the weekend. And you say, you know what? That doesn't align with my morality. That doesn't align with my values. That doesn't align with the depth of why I'm here and alive. And you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to be with people who actually align with my values and my morals, right? And support that. So Sangha or community, invaluable. And I have formed that. So in my meditation community, which I've created over the last 3 years, we have learned how not to only to meditate together, but we bring together all of our suffering and our issues, and we use that time, and everybody becomes mirrors for each other, supporting each other, making comments for each other. But the goal in the community, we're alike in mind, which is the point of being there is to realize your own truth of who you really are. We have to figure out, are my friends interested in that, or what are they interested in? So yeah, community, huge.
I love that, the word alignment. I mean, you have to align, the same vision, the same,
Similar.
love. Yeah, I mean, similar. Yeah, I mean, you have to have something in common to be able to coexist and have a better, I guess, lifestyle, if you want to call it. I mean, your behavior, everything's going to change. But if a lot of people sometimes they interact with people that have nothing, and by the way, that goes for relationships too. People meet for the wrong reasons, and then there's nothing in common, and they still want to make it work, and they just collapse it. Relationship get bust, right?
Get busted.
It's amazing. Like, even in business, right? If I have this belief, if you work for a company or someone that claims to be your boss or your hierarchy, that you're not aligned, that you cannot see eye to eye, or you're not finding yourself, then there's no reason to be there. Some people suffer because they are afraid to walk away and change careers or change jobs and whatever. If it does not align here, if it does not work here, if it does not going to help you be better, and if it's going to make you suffer day in, day out, and you're hating yourself every morning, I make a joke about like having a TGIM as opposed to TGIF. Like every Monday is a beautiful day, right? Walking out, you want to do stuff. Well, that's the concept, right? But it comes from this concept of the community, understanding, having a mixture of people that will work with you. This goes at home, this goes at work, it goes to society.
I want to give you an example of a value system related to this. So I work with people, some of them make, let's say, $175,000 a year, right? And they're suffering. They hate their job, they hate their boss, right? And we start talking about, and maybe even their career, right? And I'm like, why'd you go in that career? They're like, just because I think it was about money, right? So then they're working these careers. And I'm like, so if you were to change your lifestyle, right? And you would be more content inside. And maybe you change careers, maybe not, right? And you'd make $100,000 or $125,000. They go like this, but then I can't get my Tesla. And this is the moment that gets really interesting, right? So do you want your Tesla, or do you want to be internally home and at peace and alive and vital? Vital or Tesla? Now, I'm not saying you can't have both. If you're fortunate and you love what you do and you make money in it, go for it. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about the kind of exchanges that we're willing to make for what. And this could be about money or anything else, or in a relationship, right? We make exchanges. We say, I'm going to stay in exchange for what? What is it going to be? And when those exchanges are at the price of my authenticity, you won't be happy. My book that eventually is going to come out is going to be all about authenticity. It's going to be about being authentic in life and I want it to be at all costs. Like I want it to be to the point that you're willing to die. Seriously, that you're going to say, if I can't live an authentic life, not that you would kill. I'm talking about not killing oneself. I'm talking about being like, I don't want to make choices. That's how much I'd rather be. I'd rather make 5,000, 10,000. I don't know. I'm just using any example. But the key is this: at what price of authenticity am I willing to pay? That's the core of what I'm trying to say here.
Alex, I'm listening to you, but our audiences aren't watching or listening right now. Here's a challenge, right? We have so much pressure, around us to acquire things. From the beginning that of your life as a
I,
young
I,
person,
I know.
everybody's. And by the way, I'm not blaming. I'm just stating
I
some
know.
facts. We are told you got to do this so you can have the bigger house, so you have the American dream, this dream, and all the other stuff. And people are buying into this all along. It takes a long time before you can
It,
realize whether that's
it does.
that's really
It
what
does.
I want or not. Some
It
people
does.
are luckier; they get to face it earlier. Some people, again, if you love what you do and you can get your Teslas and whatever, that's a great thing. But if it becomes on the depends and the detriment of your health and vitality, and you're suffering, then is that worth it? Literally, I mean, it's funny because if you look at a uh, you go to the villages in some countries, people are living a simple, modest life. You'll be like, I can't live this life. But when you ask them, they're so humble, they're so happy. It's
I
just
live
like
in
this.
I live in one of those.
There you go.
So where I live in Greece, right? It's south of Athens. It's a small little town, right? Town village, if you want to. I don't even know the distinction, right? But it's like town village, right? And it's got one major road and a couple of shops. We got a few things. The average salary in Greece, the average salary per month is somewhere around 700 to 1,000 euros, which is equated to, let's say, 800 to $1,000 a month, right? But when I'm interacting with a lot of the people, right, they feel the pain. But a lot of times you just see them. There's a mentality and a kind of a feeling tone with them that doesn't compare to people that I know here that have everything. So having everything or not having everything, this is important, is not it on both ends. Because I could also say that the difficulties on not having enough money can impede one also to the point of then suffering so much that one can't, do the inner work as well. So let's not make it so kind of utopia idea that, oh, even if you have a dollar you're going to be fine. I'm not like
Authentic, baby.
I don't want to do that shit either, right? I'm not going to fall into that dream. But what I'm saying, to summarize this, authentic and happiness is an inside job.
I love that. That's your book, man. That's your tag. That's your tagline.
Authenticity is an inside job.
That's it. Let's trademark that one. We are registering that today. It's your copyright, dude.
That's
So
right.
no one can come back later and say, like, we had this. Well, what I love that because, but I swear to God, I admire that ideology because sometimes you look at things. I mean, I make a joke sometimes about this. You can live in a castle. How much of the castle do you really use on a
You
daily
don't.
basis?
You don't.
You can have a California, king size bed, which is probably the largest bed you can have. How much of that space do you sleep on? I mean, like I actually I reflect on these things and you think about it, it doesn't matter. How many cars do you need to have? How many of them do you drive at the same time? I mean, you got to switch vehicles, right? You can't, so there are certain things that we do because listen, I love what you said. Yes, if you can have the greatest stuff, why not? And I always say, you don't have to reduce your lifestyle. You can increase your finances, but do it while you're happy. At the same time, you don't have to make that your only achievement because to your point, that can go ruin your life. People
Yeah.
lose their life because they lose their mind, they get stressed, they kill them. I mean, look, we had the recession in 2008, whatever that the whole bank is. People were millionaires or billionaires and killed themselves because they lost a couple.
Correct.
Those. Why would you do that? I mean, if you can make the first million, you can make, you make it over again. If you can make $100, you can make it again. I always make this analogy personally. I lose my job. I can use my mind to work. I can use my hand to work. I can do the basics and still make a living. So in order for me to pay the bills, it's going to go to your point. I can reduce my lifestyle if I have to and still be happy. if it's between the lifestyle of my family and my health, well, guess what? If you lose your health, you got nothing. You can't do the stuff that you. So I love what you said. That what is it that we're trade in? If you trade in that vitality and all that stuff, then it's not worth it. And by the way, guys, this is a decision that each one has to make on their own. But understand your values, what you're looking for in life, and what is the price you're paying for whatever the decisions you make. And those things can make a difference whether you're going to be happier or not happier. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're healthy, we have a saying: if I'm healthy during the day, I have enough food for the day, and I'm safe. Well, I have everything in this world, right?
A lot of people in Greece that live on the islands, right? The small islands, and they don't have clubs to go out to, and so it's like you get the shepherds and the herders, right? And you make your local cheeses and you'll make your local wines, and there's dancing in the evening to local music. And Ikaria is one of the islands, and it was mentioned on one of the shows about living to be 100 years old. It's one of the blue zone places in the world, and they went to look at why. Right, it is the opposite of everything we've been talking about today. One is consumerism, one is vitality. They want vitality. They want to live vitality. So we have to make a decision. We just have to make a decision.
Alex,
And
I love it. I love it. That is probably the hardest and the toughest decision someone can make is like, what do I want? Do I have that life? And by the way, a simple life is a healthier life as well. I mean, they wake up early, they eat healthy,
do you
they're
know,
not stressed.
this goes back to the Buddha again, because, this is the Buddha always says, the more you have, the more you need to protect it. So now you need a bigger safe, more dogs to guard it, more security systems, more cameras, right? And it just keeps going on. But with that comes something else. An anxiety, listen to me very careful, an anxiety that it's going to go away. Watch. So if I need a bigger safe, I have more money inside. I'm more worried that somebody will take it. I have 3 cars. If I lose, somebody can break it. You know what I mean? Like, so the more I have, the more neurotic I'm going to have to be about losing it. Because what I'm saying philosophically is that the more I have, the happier I am. Therefore, my happiness is what's going to be taken away if that's taken away. And so now we're talking about a big philosophical discussion for next time when we meet. Why? What's the psychological, philosophical, spiritual reason behind consumerism that failed?
Well,
That's
that's
the
it.
big topic. We need an hour.
We got to come back for that one because I can tell you, I think we need to hear that discussion because it is powerful and it is reality of our world today. We want
It's
more
we
and
I
more and
wanna
more and
I
more.
wanna have I wanna have that discussion with you. Let's not wait 2 years this time, but that's a big topic.
Oh, we'll
The,
arrange it right after
it's
this.
called the fallacy of consumerism. Let's put it that way.
Ooh, all right. So that's it. We're done. We're gonna book that thing as soon as we finish this show today, and we're gonna bring this to our audiences because I think it is worth spending the hour. And these are the hours that you're not wasting, folks. These are the hours that can change your life or at least give you the guidance. Listen, you can spend an hour, with Alex alone, and you eventually get to the same. And he's given this as his way of contributing, helping through these discussions. And folks, I mean, really, we need this. I mean, Alex, I have a lot of stuff that we can discuss. I know a lot of the stuff we discussed today is really a mindset concept. It's really how you see the world, how you can readjust yourself. And so I think on the next show, we can bring some of the discussion on the mindset and how it applies to all these things and really flourishing. I love a simple life, as much as I love a lavish life. I mean, but you can have, a balance. You have to find where, because that's the other thing. Who says it has to be in one place?
If
The
I
world.
if I give you a watch, right, and you didn't know who made it, and I made it look fancy, and you were like, is it the watch that's gonna is giving you happiness, or the idea that it's a fancy watch that's giving you the idea? It's the idea. Therefore, consumerism is the beginning of this. Consumerism is built on the idea that things equals happiness. We need to deconstruct that. It's a big discussion.
And with that, Alex, that will be our sequel to this show today. So, Alex, before we wrap up today, what would be some words of wisdom? I mean, we know what our topic next time. What would you leave them today, our audiences?
A vital life. There's nothing like a vital life. There is just, you know, I want everybody to have the opportunity to live as many of their living years vital.
And listen, there's nothing. By the way, Alex, you are not only talking about this, you live this. You have made that decision
Yeah,
consciously. I mean,
yeah,
you are currently in New York, but this is not your home. You
yeah,
go and live in that life that makes you happier. And
mm,
frankly, folks, this is exactly what we need. We need to hear these things because sometimes we just need to make a choice about how we want to live, and sometimes happy doesn't mean, as you said, all the other stuff. Well, with that said, we're gonna leave that for the next show with Alex, and we're gonna bring him back, and we're gonna talk about all this consumerism business and how we can maybe move away from it. And I want to thank you, Alex, for really,
thank you.
again, another yet exciting show discussion and a lot
Thank
of
you.
good stuff to help us, you know, be better, and that's all there is, and live a vitality life. So,
Thank you for your vitality, because one of the things that makes our time together is because you're vital. And you know what? I've had other podcasts. I love this, and I love this time between us because your vitality is infectious, and I'm hoping that people can see that and be around that. When you say community, we need vital people to create vital communities.
like I'll take that as as a thank you so much for that. I mean, I truly appreciate it. It actually makes me feel good, and really reinforces my idea to continue doing what
I
I'm
got
doing
that.
to help. So
You got
thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you.
Well, folks, there you have it. I mean, I can't, have enough of Alex. I want more, but time is ticking, and he's got to do things. That being said, so American Age will be bringing Alex again, for part two of this discussion soon enough. And until then, we'll be having additional topics, discussions, and guests. So stay tuned. Bye for now.